Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
I see the Honorable Rehema Hassan, the member for Tana River County, has a petition. Proceed and... Yes, you have the microphone now, the Honorable Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to read the public petition number 26 of 2021 regarding harassment of residents in Tana River County by the Kenya Wildlife Service at Kora National Park. I, the undersigned, on behalf of residents of Bangalore Ward, Bura constituency, Tana River County, draw the attention of the House to the following. That Kora National Park, which spans over 1,787 square kilometers, is a natural resource in Tana River County that offers sanctuary to wildlife, including several of the big 5 species. That Kora was upgraded from a game reserve to a national park without the awareness and participation of the residents of the settlements adjacent to the park and the wider residents of the county. That the settlement adjacent to the park have provided protection to the wildlife by complementing the efforts of the Kenya Wildlife Service through reporting of all poaching activities, thus reducing incidents of poaching. That the KWS has failed to help mitigate human-wildlife conflicts in the area, neglected collaboration with communities living close to the wildlife habitations, and further failed to give incentives for the wildlife resource conservation and management through corporate social responsibility and community sensitization. That instead of solving all disputes between the locals and the wardens procedurally and professionally, KWS officers have repeatedly harassed residents, leading to frequent injuries of residents as well as massive losses of livestock. That the arising disputes are administratively presented in Meru County, where the park is managed from instead of Tana River County, where the park is situated. That the growth of the neighboring Boca town, which is situated at the boundary of the park, has been inhabited by KWS's constant intimidation of business people intending to invest in the town, thereby raising suspicion of the future plans to overturn the town via park boundary expansion. That efforts to have these grievances addressed by the relevant government agencies, including the Kenya Wildlife Service, have not yielded any fruit. And that the issues in respect of which this petition is made are not pending before any court of law or other constitutional or legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee of Environment and Natural Resources, 1, engages the relevant government agencies with a view to determining the original boundary demarcation between Kora National Park and the adjacent community settlements, including Boca Town community. 2, obtains for public access the public participation and corporate social responsibilities report from KWS emanating from engagement with the local residents living around Kora National Park. 3, reverse the park back to its original status of game reserve and secures the involvement of local.
Very well. Now, on this particular one, I'll give a few members who might want to give some thought to that particular petition. Honorable Murugara, you want to speak to this one?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this petition is quite timely because for sure I know Kora National Park, which is an extension and borders the Meru National Park, which also borders my constituency. It is important that once a game reserve is being upgraded from a game reserve to a national park, there is adequate public participation. And this is the complaint that the Honorable Member for Tana River has, that the government just upgraded Kora National Park from a game reserve, which it has always been since the times of Adamson, when he used to live there. And then becomes a national park, as a result of which the residents neighboring and also who are stakeholders are actually negatively affected. And this is not just to Kora, even to Meru National Park as we speak now. There is a dispute that is ongoing between the residents of Balambala constituency and the residents of my constituency, purely because there has been no public participation as regards the movement between the Meru National Park, Balambala and Tharaka constituency. As a result of which there are skirmishes, there is unrest, which we are asking the government to look into. This is timely and therefore needs immediate attention. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance. I want to just weigh in on one thing about this Kora National Park. On my trips around the country when I'm doing the other jobs, I arrived in that particular area, Tana River, and I found that the conflict between animals and human beings was so thorough. So I support this petition as raised by Honorable Member, that in that area, Honorable Speaker, even working for teachers and other civil servants is impossible. And how often do you go there and get reports that one day students wake up and find their leopards in the classes and they have to fight them? Another time, Honorable Speaker, I was shown pictures of a teacher who had been mauled by a hyena. It was so serious. So, in the same place...
Order. Honorable Osoro, you must be very careful not to mislead new members, especially. And I know you know what I'm saying.
Thank you. So in the same area, Honorable Speaker, when it comes to even events like exams, supervision, and administration, it's almost impossible because of this human-wildlife conflict that it has been let go loosely without control. So I want to support, because I've been there, is an area, Honorable Speaker, where schools are run even under the trees, despite the fact we'll find the Minister for Education speaking very strong. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Honorable Raso, Member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I support this petition on about 3 grounds. One, these animal sanctuaries, whether they are national park or national reserve, belong to the people of Kenya. And as such, the constituents or the people who border those parks and national reserve actually must co-own that particular facility with the government of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, secondly, KWS appear to be so concerned about the animals, the animal welfare, and with total disregard for the well-being of the communities who live around those sanctuaries. Thirdly, KWS must be seized of CSR, corporate social responsibility, because whatever is attracting those particular areas to be reserved for National Park and Game Reserve is because the environment is good for the wildlife. But at the same time, the people of those areas are denied access into those areas. So they must do things like schools. They must make sure there's compensation when animals destroy public facilities or even social amenities. Thirdly, the issue of water is very important, because around this park, during this time, especially when there is drought, the livestock keepers go into these reserves and game park. So to avoid that, they must make sure that they invest in water resources for the communities who live around those parks. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Chachu Ganya.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this petition by Honorable Member for Tana River. Mr. Speaker, this is a very critical concern for many Kenyans. I belong to that Committee on Environment Resources, which eventually have to probe this particular petition. But Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, it's this House to make a decision, because whenever we are gazetting national parks in this country, it is this Parliament or the August House which will make that final determination once we reach that particular stage. But as a country also, we are a custodian for this global heritage, for humankind, and there will be a very thin balance on how we take care of the people who coexist with wildlife, as much as we also want to conserve this critical and very universal human heritage that God has bestowed in this country of ours.
All right.
I thank you.
Let's have very straightforward communication, contribution, so that we can save time for other members. Let's have Honorable Wangwe, because I see there is a lot of interest in this particular one. So quickly, and then we'll be able to move.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to support this petition by the MP for Tana River County. Honorable Speaker, as to what happens in Tana River, similarly happens to other places, Honorable Speaker. I want to cite a very good example of Kakamega Forest, where instead of human conflict in terms of security to human beings, Honorable Speaker, it's causing a lot of food insecurity. You find that wildlife from the forests are now invading farms, and those farms are no longer now producing enough food to serve the people. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this petition, I would urge the Honorable Chair who is here with us, that let him do a very thorough inquiry into the whole issue in totality, bring it to us, and then, Honorable Speaker, with the suggestions, we should now be able at least to formulate how to resolve this thing once and for all. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sankok, and then I'll come this other direction and give two members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I support the Member of Parliament for Tana River, because, Honorable Speaker, the gazetting must have public participation. And when you are upgrading or disgrading, Honorable Speaker, we must have the locals, because the locals co-own these game reserves or animal sanctuary, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, those who suffer the most because of animals being in the area, Honorable Speaker, is normally the locals. Because when the animals get out of the game reserve, they get into the farms, they destroy our livestock, they also kill human beings, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, it is imperative that they must be involved in such matters, Honorable Speaker, and benefit, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank God, because you come from Crusade, you have conserved Mao Forest, you are the lead in conservation of Mao Forest, and courtesy of it, we now have rivers like Mara River, and the spectacular of the wild beast migration have come back, Honorable Speaker. So I know you will give good direction on this matter, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Now, Honorable Majimbo Kalasinga, you seem to be learning the ropes too quickly, turning out to become a very active member of this House. I've given you the mic. I don't know what has happened somewhere. Well, just organize your thought, Honorable Kalasinga. In the meantime, let me give the Honorable Wamalwa as I look for a mic which is working there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, he's been my student. I've been guiding him, Mr. Speaker. And you can only learn from experience in this house. You can't be coming technical appearance and you learn the procedures of the house. And I'm happy Honorable Majimbo is learning very fast. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this matter is similar. We've had so many petitions here, similar to this that the Honorable Member from Tana River has given. And the relevant committee, with the ranking member, Chachu Ganya, who is a committed member on that committee, Mr. Speaker, is the highest time they should get a solution for all, Mr. Speaker, because particularly on matters of conflict between wildlife and human, it has been going on for so long. You know, there must be a framework that has been put in place, Mr. Speaker, that can be able to help. Because, like, for instance, when it comes to destruction of food, these are matters that we've been talking every now and then. So the committee should look for a lasting solution and move with speed, Mr. Speaker, so that it can be able to be extended. And Mr. Speaker, like Chetambe, this issue of the gazettement, there must be a delicate balance between when you do the gazettement and human settlement. I've seen some areas they are doing the gazettement without proper public participation. And I'm saying this in Bungoma. Recently we saw Chetambe Hills, where I think the government has gazetted it without the due process being followed. The locals have done a petition through the Senate to object. So in future, any decision that is being done, public participation must play a critical role.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kalasinga now. I believe you should be able to, if you don't get the mic there, the option always that you have is to go to the dispatch area. So, but now that you have it there, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And before I even support the petition, Mr. Speaker, I want first to thank you for acknowledging my growth, Mr. Speaker. I think I'm growing properly under the better guidance of yourself and others, Mr. Speaker, nominee 001 and Dr. Chris Wamalwa. Now, on this, Mr. Speaker, I think the public, in the aforementioned, Mr. Speaker, are having double harassment. Double harassment in which way, Mr. Speaker? One, when the people meet the animals on the way, Mr. Speaker, they are harassed. If they meet the camp rangers themselves, Mr. Speaker, they are still harassed. When, Mr. Speaker, students go to school, some of the day schools in this region, Mr. Speaker, the students cannot go to school very early in the morning, or they must be escorted by parents or seniors in the family, Mr. Speaker. It is high time this government takes seriously and creates boundaries, makes proper fences, Mr. Speaker, to protect the people. When you look at how food is destroyed in Meru, Mr. Speaker, elephants, Mr. Speaker, destroy farm, they destroy maize and all other produce in the farm. Mr. Speaker, this is time when you realize that some people who have got animals like goats and sheep, Mr. Speaker, they wake up one morning to find all of them destroyed by these wild animals. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the petition and I support this one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I think, honorable members, we can leave it at that. Let's go to the next order.
Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
On that particular order, we will start with the segment on questions. Then we will go to both responses and requests for statements. So starting as of this morning is a member for Mwingi Central. Okay, so we then go to the honorable member, the honorable nominee, Honorable Keter, Gideon Keter, has made a request which we accept, that we defer the question. So we go to the member for Tharaka, the Honorable Gitonga Murugara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask question number 284 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the relationship between county boundaries and the land adjudication process with respect to the boundary between Tharaka Nithi County and Meru County as regards issuance of title deeds to the residents of Turema and Karocho locations in Turema Division and Gekingo, Thiite and Torone locations in Mukothima Division, both of Tharaka constituency. Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the details of persons disputing the boundary between Tharaka Nithi and Meru counties and indicate how the dispute affects parcels of land owned by private individuals in terms of their demarcation, adjudication, and issuance of titles? Number 3, when will the adjudication processes of the stored sections of Karocho, Turema, and Gekingo areas resume? And number 4, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether the ministry has provided the budget required to complete the demarcation and survey processes in those areas, estimated to be about Kenya shillings 7,750,000. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. And I want to revisit the previous order by, of course, committing this particular petition to the relevant committee, which is Committee on Environment. And I see the chair is in the House. Are you able to indicate how your timelines? Are you able to indicate the timelines that you require to process it? But anyway, I think we normally have the normal required timelines. I'm sure you'd be able to work on it within that particular time. Unless you want to make it a little earlier. Let's have you saying something to it. Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the petition by the Honorable Lema Hassan, who is also a member of the committee, and I want to give the undertaking that within the next 1 month, we will have disposed of with that petition.
That will be perfect. So that is perfect. So let's proceed with the order we were in, and therefore ask the member for Ruiru, the Honorable Simon Kingara, to ask his question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for according me this opportunity to ask question number 289 of 2021 on behalf of the great people of Ruiru, especially Muhoko Ward. The question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. 1, Mr. Speaker. Is the Ministry aware that the ongoing Great Githurai Ruiru Juja Water Supply System project in Ruiru constituency, whose contract was awarded in May 2018, initially included Muhoko A and Muhoko B areas as part of the beneficiaries as depicted environmental and socio impact assessment, that is ESIA report of EIA 1460 all the way to 1469. Question number 2, what measures has the ministry taken to ensure that the proposed areas in Muhoko Ward, where public participation was held by the ESIA team, including Q Ward, benefit from the water supply project? Number 3, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the timelines as to when Muhoko area will be included in the project before its scheduled completion by the year 2021? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. So we go to the next one by the Honorable Chachuganya, member for North Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask question 291 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Forestry. 1, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the National Climate Change Council, approved by the National Assembly in December of 2016, is yet to be convened to date? 2, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary also explain why the Climate Change Fund provided for in the Climate Change Act of 2016 is yet to be operational? 3, Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the National Climate Change Action Plan 2018 to 2022, which is perceived to be operational, yet the Council that's mandated to approve its operations under the Climate Change Act 2016 have not been convened? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Again, that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, which you also happen to be a member. Next is the member for Emuhaya, the Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 292 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the circumstances that led to demolition of houses at Emuraka, Ebulingi, Matindo, and Busanjiri areas in the Emuhaya constituency on 20th July 2021, despite the occupants possessing title deeds? Number two, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details of the land belonging to the railway line in the area? Number three, what steps is the ministry taking to ensure that the families affected by the demolitions in the said areas, especially the children, widows, and poor farmers, are compensated and resettled, considering that the affected have stayed on this land for more than 50 years? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. So we go to the next and the last one by the member for Embakasi West, Honorable Theuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to ask question number 301 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of the National Government. Number one, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the circumstances that led to the National Police Service officer overseeing destruction of property in Molem Ward, Embakasi West constituency, particularly along Kagundo Road, Kwamaji area and Umoja 3 areas on 10th and 22nd July 2021? Number two, could the Cabinet Secretary explain whether there was any court order or statutory notice given to the residents to vacate the land prior to the demolition or of their properties? Number three, what step has the ministry taken to compensate the said victims for the loss of their property and livelihoods? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Then now we go to the segment on statements. I think the better way is to start with the statement request, and then we go to the responses to various statements. We, honorable members, will be going as per those ones which are annexed in the order paper. So I believe it should be the one by Honorable Kingola. Actually, it's the only one that is being requested. The rest are responses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 442C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment regarding the imminent health and environmental disaster posed by a damaged section of sewerage system along Mombasa Road. In particular, an area marked as KM2-090-3-000 along the Nairobi Expressway. Honorable Speaker, the 27.1 kilometers Nairobi Express project was commissioned in October 2019, and the project begins from Lolongo through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, and Nairobi Central Business Center, Ami District, to Westlands area along Waiyaki Way. Honorable Speaker, the ongoing construction of the expressway has resulted in numerous inconveniences to residents and business communities living and operating along the Mlolongo, JKIA, and Waiyaki Way areas. The contractor, China Road and the Bridge Corporation, CRBC, and its subcontractors have failed to provide the necessary alternative drainage and the sewerage diversions in parts of the project. During the construction, Mr. Speaker, Several sewage lines have been destroyed. In addition, the contractor has dumped construction materials on sewer lines, leading to blockage and the shipping of sewage waste to uncharted areas. For instance, Mr. Speaker, the Little B Kindergarten and the primary school along the Syokimau loan area access lane, the said schools have been affected and may be closed indefinitely since they are flooded with raw sewage, which also pose serious environmental and health hazard to the pupils and area residents. Honorable Speaker, I therefore, it is against this background that I seek for assessment from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Environment on the following. 1, what measures are being put in place to avert the impending environmental and health hazards occasioned by the raw sewage spillage in the said area? Number 2, what measures are in place to provide for sewer lines and other road infrastructure that will ensure proper drainage of the raw sewer waste along the diversions and in particular in Syokimau area? Number 3, what urgent steps is the contractor taking to stop the spillage and ensure removal of the sewage waste from the said schools grounds, amongst other areas, so as to avert further damage? And 4, could the committee consider conducting a site visit within the next 2 days to assess the magnitude of the damage and the cause, that the relevant authorities to take action immediately? Number 6, Mr. Speaker, the snake jams from Syokimau, Mulolongo to Nairobi are caused by lack of diversions, Mr. Speaker, because the contractor has done or put no effort to put diversions for the same. Mr. Speaker, again, there is a lot of dust that the contractor is not watering as is in the BQs of the Ministry of Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I would also want to thank the Honorable Ichungwa who has helped me to bring in this statement, because I think he has his relatives around there. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope they feel represented, and I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Even before I commit it to a committee, I'm eager to know, why is it that you feel that it's the Committee on Health that would do better in this particular? Because my thinking is that this is basically an environmental issue. You said environment? Yeah, because I thought you spoke about health. There might be health issues, but I think environment is the better one. That's fine. So before I commit to the committee, I'd give 2 members from either side to see if there is any issue that you'd want to have it there, before I give the chair of the committee to tell us the timelines and the preparations that he would make. So, Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think as the committee on environment looks at this issue, I think it is important, there is that environmental impact assessment, if it was done on this project, and what is the status of that environmental impact assessment, because they need to look at that report. There is also what we call the health impact assessment. Any road that you build, how does it affect the people sailing along that road? Because when you look at this road, there are even shops and markets which are along the road, and people are selling vegetables and fruits and all that. How do we protect our people from those challenges, and especially the health impact assessment?
Okay. Let's have the Honorable Mbiuki telling us what he's going to do, the Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the MP for Mavoko the Honorable Macau for bringing this issue, which Mr. Speaker has been in public domain. And I want to appreciate the magnitude of the environmental and health issues which have been raised. And I want to make the commitment, Mr. Speaker, that with the support of the clerk's office, this committee, the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources, will schedule to visit the place next week on Tuesday. And at the same time, within the course of next week, Mr. Speaker, we engage the relevant authorities, and specifically the Ministry of Infrastructure, as well as the Ministry of Water and Sanitation. Mr. Speaker, we're having two contracts there. There's the contract to do the expressway, and the government has also committed more than 3 billion to relocate the existing water and sewer pipeline. So, Mr. Speaker, I strongly want to believe that the contractor who is handling the issues of sewer and water pipeline will be able to move with speed so that the same can be restored. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting for 2 weeks so that the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources can be able to come and give a comprehensive statement on how the matter has been resolved amicably, so to avert any health and environmental issues which is coming up in Mavoko. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I hope the member for Mavoko has heard that. We hope that that thing will be, of course, dispensed with as quickly as possible. So we go to the other segment, which is the responses to statements. We will start, let me see the order on which we will start. Which one is being responded to first? Let me confirm. So then we will start with the response to the Honorable Kangogo Bowen's request for statement on banditry attack and killings in Marakwet East constituency, which will be responded to by the Chair Administration and National Security Committee. Are you ready, the Honorable Chair?
Yes, sir.
Then proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a response to request for statement by the Honorable Member for Marakwet East, the Honorable Kangogo Bowen, who sought the following from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior and Coordination of National Government. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures the government is taking to address the resurgence of raids and banditry in Marakwet East constituency? And the second one was to state the efforts that are put in place to arrest the perpetrators of the attacks and recover the stolen livestock. And the response, Honorable Speaker, is as follows. Following reports of cattle rustling in Marakwet East constituency, security agents in the area responded and made the following recoveries. 1. On 21st June 2021 and 24th June 2021, police recovered 66 cows and 10 goats and handed over to the owners. 2. On 28th June 2021, 14 cows belonging to Mzee Tabel were stolen and later recovered and returned to the owner. And 3. On 3rd July 2021, 95 goats and 7 cows belonging to William Chebet and Kipkori Limo respectively were stolen, and efforts to track and recover them are ongoing. Honorable Speaker, the following measures have been put in place to address the resurgence of raids and banditry in the constituency. 1. Peace committees are actively engaged in bringing the warring communities together. So far, the efforts are bearing fruits. And 2, security patrols have been enhanced and additional personnel have been deployed in areas of Kaben, Chepto, and Kaptora operation camps, which are strategically situated along possible entry routes normally used by bandits. 3, collection of intelligence has been enhanced in the banditry-prone areas, and on 20th July 2021, police officers acting on intelligence laid an ambush in Kaben location, grazing fields, where suspected 6 Pokot raiders were fatally shot. And 4, the frequency of peace barazas has been enhanced between the warring communities. Honorable Speaker, the government has employed various measures in efforts to recover stolen livestock and arrest of the perpetrators involved in these activities. That since 21st June 2021, a total of 211 heads of cattle, 262 goats have been recovered. Similarly, 2 notorious suspected cattle rustlers, namely Kisang Loklem and John Kiplagat, have been arrested, and police are using information received from them to track and recover stolen livestock. The SCCIO Marakwet East is profiling and monitoring all known suspects to establish their networks and funding with an aim to effect arrest for those found to be involved in cattle rustling menace. However, the following issues continue to pose a challenge to the security agencies, namely 1, the cattle rustlers are treated as heroes, and thus the community members are never willing to share intelligence on their activities or inform on their hidouts.
Order. There must always be social distance among members, unless they came from the same house. Order. Honorable members. I do not know what is really. Well, proceed. And members must always keep social distance, as I've repeated, unless they came from the same house. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The second challenge is that Marakwet East constituency has rugged terrain and impassable routes, which hamper swift response to incidents by security personnel. 3, presence of illegal firearms and crude weapons in the hands of warring communities. And 4, lack of alternative means of livelihood in both communities, which make them resort to cattle rustling. And lastly, the 5th one is that both communities sympathize and support their respective bandits' activities. In order to deal with insecurity in the area, the government intends to implement the following measures, namely 1, deployment of special police unit at Dira between Baringo and Marakwet, which is a possible escape route, and 2, establishment of a police station at Chesogon area. I thank you, Honourables.
Very well. The Honourable Member for Marakwet East. Yes, represented by the Member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I do want to thank the Chairman for National Security for the response. But, Honourable Speaker, the last time we were there with CS Matiangi, we were taught, and all the leaders from that region, West Pokot, Elgeyo-Marakwet County, and Baringo County, the CS agreed to send a special DCC to TOT to take care of the issues around that region. But to date, Honourable Speaker, we just were surprised to see last week that instead of sending a special DCC, there was a curfew that has been enforced from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So, Honourable Speaker, we're still requesting that that special DCC and the police station that has been mentioned by the Honourable Chair be built quickly. They can even set up a police post initially, using tents so that security is restored. But we are happy so far. For the last 1 week or so, there is relatively peace in the area. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to look out for a new member because I see the rest of the members who have made requests are the normal. Okay, let's go to Honourable Dr. Pukose.
Apparently, Honourable Speaker, I was MOH in Marakwet and I know the place very well. Honorable Speaker, this issue of cattle rustling has actually been there for quite a long time. And I want to thank the Chair Security for the response which is made. But it's important that when you go to, there's a police station at a place called Mokil. And that police station actually needs to be, at times you find that they have challenges when it comes to even patrol in terms of the vehicles. So I think when the contract for the vehicles, the lease agreement is renewed, I think it is good to enhance that place with more vehicles so that you can enable the officers to be able to trace these cattle rustlers, especially where you've responded that they are still following up those cattle that were stolen. You know, following up cattle that have been stolen for more than 2 weeks is a very long time. Recovering them is a challenge. I think the government also needs to put in measures for even issuing cows for wealth creation in areas like that. How do you support what is there to support those whose cattle are, and that is their only livelihood that they had? We must have measures that can support them, maybe by giving them some cows that even breeds that cannot be able to be stolen and be taken to hardship areas. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Ganya Chachu.
Mr. Speaker, this issue of cattle rustling among the pastoralist communities is a serious crisis. Mr. Speaker, as members of Parliament, while our core function is to legislate, to represent, to oversight, and also maybe to make a decision on the issues of national importance in terms of deliberation on this floor. For some of us, Mr. Speaker, 80% of our time is just spent agonizing on this mess of cattle rustling in our regions. Yet we have very little powers and capacities to deal with it. Mr. Speaker, I think it's really of essence and of significant importance, particularly an imperative, that this government comes up with serious ways of addressing cattle rustling. Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency last week and the week before, there was serious cattle rustling that was going on between the Gabras, the Dasnat, and the Turkanas. It's just so unfortunate. And even now we are told of many efforts that are being done by cattle rustlers to increase banditry, increase cattle rustling within my constituency. We have reported this to the police and other security agencies, but even before, the reports that we do in good time have never been a deterrent. They have never impeded these cattle rustlers from creating chaos, killing innocent Kenyans in those parts of the country, and taking away all their livelihoods in terms of livestock. Mr. Speaker, we are really pleading with the government to, even if it means reinstating KPRs or Kenya Police Reservists or National Police Reservists as they are called of late, or coming up with other measures, even using drones. Because these people, Mr. Speaker, go in masses. There are 300 people, 200 people who walk. They don't fly or they don't drive. And if the government is serious, Mr. Speaker, if our government is serious, this can easily be deterred. It cannot be a usual game every other day. Mr. Speaker, sir, I really hope, Honorable, our Chairman for Security, my good friend, Honorable Yai, will do whatever it takes to really come up with the measures, because it can be deterred, Mr. Speaker, sir. But it's really a serious crisis in this region, Mr. Speaker, sir. Many people have lost their lives, many people have lost their livelihoods, and in some of these regions, Mr. Speaker, because there are no papers, like in my constituency, nobody even reports about it. Mr. Speaker, we are really pleading for the government to do something. I thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, though, honorable members, I should guide that even as you make those kind of contributions, let it be specific to this particular one, or a more generalized one in terms of issues of policy. Because if you ask the specifics like what Honorable Ganya has said, you are definitely free to seek your own personal, a statement or petition or a question that you bring it yourself, so that the details can be inquired into better. Lastly would be the Honorable Member, Honorable Sankok, briefly, then we will wind it up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And there is a time you say that you are trying to look for new members. Honorable Speaker, don't punish us for being very loyal and being very active and being ready to participate in debates in this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, let me thank Honorable Peter Mwadhi the chairperson of the Committee on Interior. You know him. He's Mudhuri wa Modegi. There are only 3 in this country. That is
that's an parliamentary language.
And
we would not trust you to. Well, by the way, I
Justin
think
Muturi
you could easily interpret that.
Let me interpret.
That would be very interesting.
Yes, that means there are only 3 people in this country who have been given the leadership, traditional rungu in Kikuyu, and those are
then how did
3.
How did you know it?
There are 3. No, I know because history is very clear and it is all over. So it is Peter Mwadhi, the Right Honorable Justin Muturi, and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. Honorable Speaker, so I thank him for coming up with that very elaborate response to this menace of cattle rustling. I just want him to go further and realize that this cattle rustling is actually a capital crime, sanitized traditionally, so that it does not sound very offensive. But in reality, there is murder, there is rape, there is deportation of masses, and there is stealing, and robbery, Honorable Speaker. So if we can have policies geared towards naming it as it is, that is robbery, it is rape, it is murder, Honorable Speaker, I think we can be able to use the security apparatus to ruthlessly deal with these people, Honorable Speaker, because they are really draining the energy of the good citizen of this country who keep livestock for their livelihood to drive the economy, but all of a sudden you have been made poor simply because of something, a crime that have been sanitized traditionally. Because if you hear cattle rustling, you may not think that it is actually murder. You think robbery is more bad and worse, and when you respond to robbery with violence, then you see the security responding very quickly. But for cattle rustling, they put it as if it is a cultural thing. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the petition, and I also support the petitioner.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have anything to say in response to the Honorable Mwandi? I see most of the members are basically encouraging you to do more, but they seem to be satisfied with your answer.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, thank you. And I want also to agree with most members that the issues of insecurity, cattle rustling, and so on that have been happening within the country. And only to let members know that 2 days from today, that's on Friday, I'll be meeting the CS in charge of security together with his team to give us the state of containment of insecurity in the entire country, after which then I'll bring a report here in the chamber for members to see. And we want to cover all areas because there are so many statements and petitions regarding security or insecurity for that matter in this country, and we felt it's necessary for us to engage with the entire team and get counter reports on peace and security matters so that we can also appraise this House.
Thank you very much. Now, then we go to the next one by the Honorable Abdul Samad Nasir on police brutality against peaceful demonstrations in Mombasa County. The Honorable Abdul Samad. Okay. So it's a response, but still we would be happy when we see members who, in fact, many a times the chairs are accused when they are not in the House. I think we should treat the members in exactly the same manner when they are not in the House and the statements are being responded to. You know, it's good for them. We would expect them to be asking getting clarifications from the chair. So you don't simply request for a statement and leave it there. So, okay, you can proceed and respond to that one. Probably I will not open it up to too many, interventions because the member is not here himself. Proceed, the Honorable Mwadi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the member for Parliament for Movita constituency sought a statement regarding police brutality against peaceful demonstration by residents of Mombasa in expressing their views on ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. In particular, the members sought to be informed on the following: that could explanation be given on the plans put in place to end the manner in which police are handling peaceful demonstrations in Mombasa County to allow them freedom of expression as stipulated in Article 4 of the Constitution of Kenya. And 2, whether the Cabinet Secretary could provide an assurance on the manner the police could handle the residents of Mombasa to express the emotions in solidarity with the Palestinians. The response is as follows, Honorable Speaker. The government has, as guided by the Public Order Act, has measures outlined on how to handle peaceful demonstrations and allow freedom of expression as follows. 1, prior holding of consultative meetings with organizers before allowing such demonstrations. 2, agree with organizers on the route for the demonstrations. And 3, ask the demonstrators to provide their own security plans during demonstrations. Honorable Speaker, residents wishing to express their solidarity with the Palestinians should be guided by existing laws and regulations. However, the demonstrations have to observe and adhere to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 containment protocols and regulations. The police, Honorable Speaker, the police officers are trained on how to handle the demonstrators in line with the legal provisions and statutes, and specifically the Public Order Act and as provided for in the Constitution. We wish to state that it is the role of government through the National Police Service to promote and ensure security of citizens even during legal processions. However, the organizers need to notify the area OCS beforehand for these security arrangements to be put in place. And that's a response, Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
Very well. So then, let's see what Honorable Mwarigi, you want to say something to this? Mwirigi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wanted to comment to the first response, but even to this. Mr. Speaker, the people of this republic has the right, as enshrined in the Constitution, Article 37, to demonstrate and picket, Mr. Speaker, and the security is supposed to be provided, Mr. Speaker, for those people who are demonstrating. So it is not right, Mr. Speaker, for the people doing peaceful demonstration to be disrupted by the police officers, to be beaten, Mr. Speaker. It is not right. So it is maybe right for the chairperson or for the CS Interior, Mr. Speaker, to advise the OCS, the OCPD, the regional commissioner also, to devise ways which can guide the demonstrators, Mr. Speaker, when they are out there to demonstrate. Thank you.
Okay. So, honorable members. Okay, Honorable Bukose, again.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, although I don't support the position of the Palestinians because I am pro-Israeli, but those who are demonstrating against the state of Israel, they should be allowed to demonstrate. We have no problem with that.
What is the relevance of that one to this?
If you read the reply, it is talking about those protesting in support of the Palestinians by Abdul Samad, that they were forcefully told, put down not to protest. But I think they should have been allowed to protest. And Honorable Speaker, what I also wanted to comment is what happened in Embu, Honorable Speaker. It is shameful for the police to use brutality and even kill people who are demonstrating following the death of the 2 young men who were killed by the police. Honorable Speaker, extrajudicial killings in this country must come to an end. And any police officer who was responsible must be taken to court, tried, and be jailed according to the laws of the land. So I think the police should not consider themselves as being above the law, that they can use excessive force and kill young people even after the curfew hours, just because you have stayed out of the curfew hours. That is very brutal, that is inhuman, and it's a shame as a Republic of Kenya. That should not happen.
Okay. The Honorable Nangabo Janet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment to the first question. That is about security, because I'm the neighbor to Marakwet, Honorable Speaker.
No.
Speaker, I was requesting if you can allow the committee to go on the ground so that they can see exactly what is happening. Because when we just wait for the CS or the PS to respond to these issues, Honorable Speaker, they are not familiar what is happening down there, Honorable Speaker.
Okay.
And then about the second one.
Now concentrate on the second one because we disposed of the first one.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you see, when you see people protesting or people doing mandamano, Honorable Speaker, those people want to give the signs that they are not satisfied with what is happening, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, it is up to the security to make sure that they protect each and everybody in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Inyamai.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me a chance to comment on this response that was given by the Chair, Interior. And I think what the Chair may have tried to do was to avoid delving into the matter of foreign relations issues so that he doesn't concentrate on the matter of the Palestinians and the Israeli and focus on the local issues. So I think he has done quite well. I would like just to say that Kenyans have become more informed on facts that they can demonstrate, they can air their petitions to government. And I think it is time that during training and even in-service training that police officers have been exposed to know that Kenyans have a right to demonstrate and stop handling with people with too much brutality. Honorable Speaker, this is a human rights issue and it needs to be taken seriously by the Chair. So I think the Chair has done very well.
Okay. Again, Honorable Sankok. And that will
Thank you very much.
I've given all the members who wanted to make requests to contribute to this.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And the response is quite well so that we don't bring the diplomatic issues in our own local issues, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, extrajudicial killing in this country is becoming rampant, and we condemn it with the greatest term possible. Honorable Speaker, police brutality is also becoming a norm in this country, and it's high time that the Inspector General of Police realize that this country is governed by law. Again, in demonstration, the demonstrators should also know that their rights stop where other people's rights start. You cannot purport to be demonstrating, destroying properties, and blocking roads, blocking ambulances that are taking people to hospital, and you also want to be treated with dignity while you are infringing into other people's rights. You have the rights as a demonstrator, but also those road users and investors in this country have rights. So I think my advice to the Chair is that as you try to address this issue, let us balance so that nobody rights is infringed at whatever cost. Thank you.
Very well. So then we move to the next order. No, sorry. Let's have the Honorable Mwadhi responding to anything that arose out of those many interventions.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to agree with members that yes, the Constitution allows for demonstration, picketing, and so on. But the only thing is that it needs to be done with the confines of the law, and that's what the CS is saying, that there needs to be discussion between the OCA so that they
what
can
is it, Honorable Sanko?
Honorable Basaris seem to be attracting a lot of, because the social distance in this country is still a directive from the Ministry of Health. Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Basaris was earlier sandwiched between the two honorable members, Osoro. And now again,
there are no sandwiches here. Order, Honorable Sanko.
Yes.
Take your seat. You have made a very reasonable, you have made a very reasonable intervention. that we should keep safe distance. But the issue of sandwiches here and others, you know, we are in the chamber. Those ones are probably in the other side. But honorable members, kindly, now honorable members, you must keep social distance. Honorable members, you must keep some social distance, and I see some members actually flouting that even as maybe I would help you members to send some of you out so that you can consult better outside there. Honorable Anjala, now I must Honorable Anjala.
No, it's this one.
It's mostly Honorable
Basaris is the one that's doing it.
Take your seat, Honorable Pasaris. And Honorable Anjala, you will not be allowed at all to flout the social distance requirement. Thank you very much. Let's proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I was saying before, the issue of alleged sandwich came up, is that I agree with members that there is no police officer who should use excessive force, and that at the same time, Honorable Speaker, to let members know that we also have IPOA, which is also oversighted by this committee, and we take seriously the reports that come from IPOA in regard to police excesses on what the members of the public are doing, or if there are any brutalities. But at the same time, to inform members that it's good for anybody wishing to demonstrate or picket to liaise with authorities, as alluded to by the CS, so that, one, they can get security, and also the security of those people along which route they will be passing. But generally, Honorable Speaker, we bring this also to the attention of the CS in our meeting with his security team. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mwadi, and you've done very well. Present to answer, to respond to all the statements. That is good. And the members, you must keep up. If you do not do that in future, we probably will not ask the chairs to respond. So do we have any other? I'm not aware. Probably that was supposed to be coming in the afternoon. Which one is that, the Honorable Mwadi? Because to the best of my knowledge, what we were to do in this morning, we have done.
Honorable Speaker, I had 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon.
Which one is that?
This one is the one that was requested for by the member for Turkana East constituency, Ali Mohammed Lokiru.
You see where the problem is? Whereas I have no problem with that, the members are guided by what is in the appendix of our order paper. So if he is not going to be here, probably will be disadvantaged because he probably did not know that it was going to be responded to. So unless he's here, I would request that you do it in the afternoon.
But let me also say this, that my practice, and I think is a good practice, Honorable Speaker, is that before we read and take it to table room, we normally consult the member and they accede to us our request to give the statement. So in this case, unless it was not listed.
No, it's not listed. I've just confirmed.
That's fine. Then
positively that it was not listed. It's been actually listed for the afternoon.
All right.
Now, well, it's good that you are being very efficient.
Yes.
But the problem is, if the member had gone through the order paper and seen in the appendix of the afternoon order paper that is going to be then, we will actually disadvantage him. So kindly be available in the afternoon to reply to that.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm properly guided.
Thank you. So we go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Alcoholic Drinks Control Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 70 of 2019, second reading, resumption of debate.
On this particular one, we had 33 minutes left, so the mover should be ready to respond anytime, 10 minutes before the end of these 33 minutes. So let me see if there are members who want to speak to this one. I see the Honorable Pasaris. You want to speak to this one? Well, but you had placed your intervention, or what was it about? Okay. So then, for members who want to contribute to this particular one, Can I get an indication by them pressing intervention slot so that I don't remove you from the main slot? So I see only one member interested in this, Honorable Murigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank Honorable Osoro for bringing this bill here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the advertisement which are done through our televisions, Mr. Speaker, concerning HALCO, Mr. Speaker, the timings, the way the advertisements are done, Mr. Speaker, are supposed to be set in a way that they are advertised when the children are already gone to sleep, Mr. Speaker. Because those advertisements encourages the young generation, Mr. Speaker, to engage in alcohol, Mr. Speaker, in early age, and even in misbehaving, Mr. Speaker, because their age, Honorable Speaker, does not allow them to engage in alcohol. So there ought to be maybe some regulations which regulate the way advertisements are done, Mr. Speaker, and when those regulations are put in place, Mr. Speaker, whoever goes against those regulations, Mr. Speaker, that person should be charged, maybe in the court of law, so that at least we can manage the way advertisements are done. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the selling of the alcohol. I understand that there are some guidelines, Mr. Speaker, on the people who are supposed to purchase or who are supposed to be allowed to take alcohol. But nowadays, Mr. Speaker, anybody can purchase alcohol, Mr. Speaker. Anybody can go to those bars, Mr. Speaker, and drink the way he wants, Mr. Speaker, regardless of the age, Mr. Speaker. So also, there must be some regulations, Mr. Speaker, and some penalties, Mr. Speaker, which are set for those who sell alcohol, Mr. Speaker, to underage children, Mr. Speaker, the age of 18 and below, Mr. Speaker, so that at least we can bring sanity in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge this House, when we pass this, Mr. Speaker, to be enacted so that at least it can be followed to the latter, and also our young generation, Mr. Speaker, can grow well. And maybe if there is something which can be encouraged to our young generation, Mr. Speaker, is first to know God first, because those other earthly things, Mr. Speaker, will come later, or they are existing there. Mr. Speaker, with that, I beg to support. Thank you.
Okay, the Honorable. No, I mean, I can see I almost gave the Honorable Osoro, but Osoro should be now to respond. I see no other member interested in speaking to this. So, again, Honorable Pasaris, I had given you an opportunity. You said you do not want to contribute on this one. So you have.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. But, Mr. Speaker, you know, when you're being attacked for all manner of issues, when you're not as guilty as you are, it throws you off balance. So, Honorable Songkok today has been on to attack me on various issues, including saying that I was being sandwiched or I was sandwiching. So, Mr. Speaker, on serious matters.
I don't think Honorable Songkok was more interested about you. I think he had an issue with the Honorable Wanjala.
Yes, Honorable Wanjala was definitely sitting on a chair that is not marked, and he's since moved.
Yes, so,
he's since moved, but it was only Pasaris that I was hearing.
No, I think Songkok had some issues, but actually it was Honorable Wanjala. Yes, and he is known. So let's proceed.
No, Mr. Speaker, I agree. COVID is very serious, and us as members of Parliament have to actually adhere to COVID protocols. And we're all wearing our masks. And unfortunately, with the mask and because of the low tone, sometimes we have to get close to each other. So the social distancing of 1 meter will mean that the house will be very noisy. So I think as long as our masks are put on well, and we are able to, to talk to each other, because it's necessary for us to communicate as well in low tones. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the Alcohol and Drinks Control Amendment Bill brought to the National Assembly. And I actually, I'm very proud of Honourable Silvanus Osoro for bringing up this bill. It is really a serious matter. Alcohol and drugs are really ravaging our youth. When we are talking about the hustlers, as we call them, most of the Kenyans right now are actually lost because of alcohol and drug. And the reason is because it's been made so lucrative, it's so attractive. And then also our children, when we're sitting as parents watching television with children who are younger, and at the timing that we're watching the children's programs, to have an alcohol commercial come in, or when you're driving your children to school, and that also comes in, you all discussions and contents that are not really good for parents and children to have at the same time. I think we are actually damaging our children, and we're making it very difficult for us to bring up children for tomorrow. Also, in terms of the content, nudity is normally being used. You're trying to make this product very sensuous. And we can see today our young children, over 200,000 children during the COVID pandemic period and lockdowns got pregnant. And I feel that some of these things that are happening to our society, we have to look at a broader prospect. And we have to agree that when we want to communicate with adults, we communicate with adults during the time that adults are the audience. But when we want to communicate with adults, and then we're putting it at a time when the children are actually with their parents, I think we're doing wrong. So if we want to have a society that the morals are higher, we need to make sure that we make the relevant authorities, including the CS, to be a mandatory person to approve the content and the visuals. It's not just the content, it's also the visuals that are used to actually depict the attractiveness of alcohol. Alcohol is actually supposed to be something that is consumed by people over 18 here in Kenya. But if you look at America, alcohol is sold to children over 21. I wish, and I will try and see if we can actually raise the age for alcohol consumption to 21. And when it comes to adverts, we're not just talking TV, electronic. Even in the restaurants, some of the food courts, we have to actually make sure that the food courts do not have advertisements that are seductive and luring children into wrong behavior in the food courts, because food courts are places that parents go. So these advertisements should be put, the point of sale advertisements should be put purely in bars and in clubs. But I feel we also as a country have to ensure that we protect the minors, because we're exposing them to too much. And we know that YouTube exposes our children to a lot. We should also look at the content and how we can manage advertisements that are also exposed to our children. Educate our parents on how we can put various censures on the children's electronic media, because it's an all-rounder. We can't just look at one area. And I absolutely support the bill. Thank you.
Now you see how good a contribution you are going to make. Now, I think we now we have the mover to respond, because everybody else seems to have spoken.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Although Honorable Ditmas Barasa has requested me 1 minute to make a contribution.
No, let me ask you, are you the...
I am moving you through the chair.
You want to contribute?
No, I'm responding. I'm replying.
You are responding, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because you are talking about Didmas Barasa. Where is Didmas Barasa?
No, he sought 1 minute from me, donation, and I wanted to request you to...
No, we don't have a problem with giving out time. In fact, you could give him yourself. But since I have given you now, you are free to donate to any member because we have not cut debate.
Okay.
We do not cut debate on this one. So you can give the Honorable Barasa if you wish.
Okay.
And actually, unfortunately, you should have requested. We were looking for members who want to speak to this, so you should have gotten more time. But now that you did not request at that point, probably you don't even have a card. Just have the 1 minute that you are given by your colleague. Did you say 5 minutes? If you do 5 minutes, then the Honorable Osoro would have five minutes remaining.
I said 2 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes, Honorable Osoro. Not Honorable Didmas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. Honorable Speaker, this bill is going to assist this country raise responsible citizens, Honorable Speaker. Much of the decaying morals among our youth population, Honorable Speaker, has got a lot of things to do with what they watch on TV. And ensuring that all advertisement on alcohol must be within the acceptable behavior, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that 7 years from today, going forward, this country is going to have young people who are going to be very responsible, because we have some things that are completely embarrassing when you are watching them with your children. And even you wonder whether you should switch off the TV or whatever happening. And even as we proceed forward, Honorable Speaker, we should also consider banning, or rather controlling what the other international TVs will do, like DSTV, CNN. In Dubai, Honorable Speaker, you cannot watch certain materials even if you have your laptop. They will be blocked. And I think this is a bill that is going to assist this country, especially in the moral upbringing. It's a bill that is whose time has come, and it's a bill that this House, we should unanimously unite to approve it, to support it, Honorable Speaker, because this law is going to ensure that this country is going to lead by an example, and I'm sure that even other countries will come to benchmark on this very law so that they can also improve the well-being of their citizens and their children. Honorable, I thank you. And I thank Honorable Soro for donating me these minutes, and also for bringing this bill, that these are the brains that are required, that this country needs to go forward, not even BBI or other things. We need people who are responsible, people who are going to use their brains to make a difference in this country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much.
The Honorable Soro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want from the onset to appreciate all the contributions that have been made by my colleagues in this House. Since we started this motion and the second reading of the Alcoholic Drinks Amendment Bill number 70 of 2019 last week on Wednesday, I take in and admit the proposals that many of our colleagues made here in regards to further amendments to the particular bill, and I invite them further to review it and bring forth the amendments when we get to the third reading. This clearly shows that we've all fallen victim of embarrassments with very funny content, when very funny content is brought on TV, especially when you are seated with members of the family in the house. It's usually very embarrassing to see somebody dancing naked while advertising alcohol. When you are seated with your teenage kids, it's usually very embarrassing to see that. You actually feel like you need to switch off your TV. So the bill, as I said earlier, sets to review such content, and not just content, but also the timelines that such content should be brought on TV if it must be brought. And that is why I invite the honorable members, when you get to the third reading, the further amendments that most of them proposed, in regard to what should be termed as moral content and what should be termed as immoral, what regulation should be set, of course, and with the punitive measures. Like Honorable Millie said, that 500,000 for the defaulters, or rather for those who will, of course, not comply with the law, is a bit lenient, and she felt that we should set higher retributive measures for purposes of morality, so that we are able to save the next generation. Several members, of course, said that young families are dying, and their young families are fighting. People are not able to raise their children well because of this alcoholism. And it's upon us now to set the ground earlier, to set people earlier, to try and twist the content that is brought on TV. We might not really be able to kill immorality and bad manners and drug abuse in the country entirely through one angle, but at least we can try, even if it's 5%, to limit such content that motivates our young ones, to do some immoral things and to engage themselves in drug abuse. And one such way is by limiting the timelines that this alcohol is brought on our screens, by also directing or rather regulating the content that is brought on TV when one is advertising a certain type of a drink, alcoholic drink. Because as I said, sex is not related to alcohol. How they try to twist it and marry them and bring them forth on TV between 8 and 9 when you're seated with your kids, teenage kids, is very confusing. And that is why we are pushing for this. And for that reason, as I thank the honorable members and I invite them for the third reading, as we seek further to review the regulations, I beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well done, Honorable Soro, but I will defer the putting of the question to such time that the matter will be set down on the order paper again. I direct that we move on to the next business.
Order number 9, the Kenya Deposit Insurance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2020, second reading.
Yes, I am informed that the Honorable Dawood, for good reason, is not available today. I therefore direct that this business be deferred. We move on to the next one.
Order number 10, the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, second reading.
I am also informed that the Honorable Martin Peters Owino is not also in today. I therefore direct that this business be deferred. We move on to the next business.
Order number 11, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 19 of 2019, second reading, resumption of debate.
Yes, this business has a balance of 3 hours 10 minutes, and do I see interest from the Honorable Ole Sankok? The Honorable Sankok? This is the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 19 of 2019 by the Honorable Florence Mutua.
Let me first of all check if I did contribute, and then I will contribute later.
Very well.